A closer look at man's creation. Now when God first made the earth, there were no shrubs or plants, because God had not created rain to water the plants, nor man to work the ground. Since there was no rain, God created streams that came up from the ground to water the seed-bearing vegetation on the earth. God used the dust of the earth to create man. And God said, "Let us make man in our image." So God breathed life into his nostrils and made him a living soul. No other creature on earth was made in this manner. God created all living creatures by speaking them into existence. But with man, he personally molded him out of the dust of the earth and breathed life into him. God planted a garden in the east, and he called it Eden. This is where he put man. God had many trees grow in the garden. Some were pleasing to the eye, and others for food. In the center of the garden, God planted two trees, the tree of life, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. A river flowed through the Garden of Eden to water it. Outside of the garden, the river separated into four headwaters: the Pishon, the Gihon, the Tigris, and the Euphrates. God placed man in the Garden of Eden to work the ground. He commanded man to eat freely of any tree within the garden, except for the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. God told him, "If you eat the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you will die." Then the Lord God realized it wasn't good for man to be alone, so he searched for a suitable helper for him. God brought man, who was then called Adam, all the birds of the sky and creatures from the land to see what he would name them. Whatever Adam named them became their name, and Adam named them all. Out of all the animals on earth, there was not found a suitable helper for him. So the Lord put man into a deep sleep. While Adam was asleep, God took a rib out of his side and put flesh back where he took the rib. God made woman out of the rib he took from man. Once the woman was created, he brought her to the man. Then Adam said, "This is now bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man." The Lord God created man to leave his mother and father to be joined to his wife, and they shall become joined as one. Adam and his wife were both naked in the garden, and they were not ashamed. Genesis chapter 3, the fall of mankind. One day, as Eve was in the garden, the serpent, who was the most cunning of all creatures that God had created, came to the woman and said, "Did God say you shall not eat the tree of the garden?" And woman responded by saying, "We may eat of the trees from the garden, except for the tree in the middle of the garden. God said we are not to eat it or touch it, or else we will die." Then the serpent told the woman, "You won't die if you eat from it. God knows that once you eat it, your eyes will be open, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Eve noticed that the tree had food on it, and it did look pleasing to her eye, and she desired so much to be wise, so she ate the fruit. Then she gave the fruit to her husband, and he ate it too. Once they ate the fruit, their eyes were open, and they were aware of their nakedness, so they sewed fig leaves together to cover themselves. Adam and Eve heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden, so they went and hid themselves from his presence. God called out to them, asking them, "Where are you?" And Adam replied, "I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid myself." And God asked, "Who told you you were naked? Did you eat from the tree that I commanded you not to eat?" So Adam blamed woman by saying, "Well, the woman you gave me of the tree, so I ate it." Then God asked the woman, "What have you done?" Then the woman blamed the serpent. "Well, the serpent deceived me, so I ate it." Their disobedience was the first sin and the reason we are all born into sin. God placed judgment on the serpent and on mankind. The serpent's curse, which is Satan's curse. The serpent is cursed more than any living creature and shall move on its belly while eating the dust of the earth. There will be hostility between the serpent, woman, and her offspring. Man will crush the serpent's head, and the serpent will strike man's heels. Woman's curse. A woman will be given severe pain during childbirth. A woman will desire her husband, and the husband will be the head of the household. Man's curse. Because Adam listened to his wife and ate from the tree in which God commanded him not to eat, man will toil over the ground in order to eat from it. The ground will produce thorns and thistles. Man will work for his food until he returns to the ground in which he came from. And the Lord God made clothes for Adam and Eve from garments of skins or hides. And God stated that man has become like them, the Trinity, knowing good from evil, and must not be allowed to eat from the fruit of the tree of life, or they will live forever. So God banished mankind from the Garden of Eden to work the land outside of the garden. On the east side of the garden, God placed cherubim and a flaming sword flashing back and forth to guard the way to the tree of life.